Darby Webinar Wednesdays. I am your host, Rob Clemens. And today we are going to be talking about the Fujitsu Multi-Positional Air Handler, or as we call it around here, the AMUG, the AMUG. We have a packed room here today. We got everybody behind the scenes to make sure that this is going to go off without a hitch. I have John Resso here. He's here to answer any questions you may have. To ask those questions, you have a control panel on the top right-hand side of your screen. Just go into the questions option, open it up, type in what your question is. He'll try to answer it, and if he feels like it's something that needs to be broadcast to the entire group, he will interrupt me by shaking his hands and jumping up out of his seat and all the stuff that John normally does. I also have Jim DePalma in the background. He's going to be here for, I guess, moral support. And then Chris and Brett are working on the DJ equipment over here on the ones and twos, making sure that we can go flawlessly from camera one to camera two. With that being said, today we are here to discuss the multi-positional air handler, one of the products that we are so excited about. We've drawn a lot of excitement from just about everybody we've brought this product in front of. Behind me, I have a live fire unit. That's a 30,000 BTU unit. There is 4 systems with this lineup. We have a 24,000, 30,000, 36,000, and a 48,000 BTU system. So first I want to kind of dive into, why we're here, right? The industry, where it's going, where it has been going for quite a while. When I first started here at Wales Darby in 2018, we saw roughly a 7 to 8% market share. Roughly a 7 to 8% market share throughout the industry as far as mini split technology was concerned. And over the course of the last few years, we've really started to see that, kind of rise. And a lot of the reasoning for that is we're trying to get to a more greener footprint, less carbon emissions, and heat pump technology solves most of that. And especially when you start to think about the efficiency capabilities of our equipment. So initially, everybody knows Fujitsu as a ductless company. You see our wall-mounted units all over the place. We have our floor-mounted units, our cassette units, and sprinkled in there from time to time, you would see our slim ducted units and our eventually came to the mid-static unit, but we really kind of changed the ball game here. In what John Resso, my friend over here, calls the hockey stick effect, right? We're kind of going along nice and easy, right around that 7-8%, and then all of a sudden, we start to go up the blade of that stick. And the reason why we started seeing that occur is because the industry started to realize that the market share was starting to get divided with mini split technology, and these manufacturers, what they decided to do at this point was start to make partnerships with the mini split companies. So that's the reason why I'm standing in front of a Fujitsu Multi-Positional Air Handler. So as you can see, the unit itself, we have our outdoor unit, which is going to be a much smaller footprint than your standard, if you think about 20 SEER compressors, outdoor units, 36 by 36 by 40 inches, big, massive units, exhausting from the top, so we're taking energy from the outside and pushing it through the top. The entire cabinet of that unit is basically like a sound box. You can produce a multitude of different sounds. Could be quite loud at times, where our inverter here, everybody knows how absolutely quiet this system can be. I am going to live fire this unit at some point towards the end of the presentation, and you're actually going to be able to hear the system running, or maybe even not hear the system running because of how quiet it is. Roughly around 54 decibels. I'm going to be using the same tone in my voice. I'm not going to have to elevate my voice while this system is in operation. And that's one of the key factors of this piece of equipment. So just like every other Fujitsu mini split system, we have our indoor unit is actually going to be powered by our outdoor unit. So there's no need to, have another home run wire sent up to our indoor unit, because that power is being supplied from the outdoor. So another nice little benefit there. So let's think about it. A lot of times this equipment is going to be replacing what you already have in your home. So the existing ductwork that you have is already going to be there. We're just basically taking your old unit out and putting our Fujitsu Multi-Positional Air Handler in. So let's say you wanted to put some lights up in an attic. You take that old unit out. Now we have that spare outlet up there that we can tie some lights to. Now you have lights in your attic. Or maybe you want to put some outdoor lighting and you don't want to have to run all new wires. You could actually set that up with the space that you just saved in your panel by installing this unit. So key features and benefits. The big thing about the Fujitsu Multi-Positional Air Handler, just like all the rest of the Fujitsu systems that we have, everything is going to be controlled by a Fujitsu algorithm. Okay, precise refrigerant control, 100% modulation. We can go from 0 all the way up to 100. When comparing to current unitary heat pumps out there, you might get a 2-stage compressor, and that will give you exactly what it says, 2 stages. We have basically any kind of stage we could imagine, right? From 0 all the way up to 100%. And that design, basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to take the temperatures that are being reported to both our indoor and outdoor units. And if you think about it, like my friend Jim DePalma in the back of the room always says, the system is like cruise control, right? When you get in your car and you drive, Jim's fist bumping back there. When you get in your car and you're driving on a highway and you're just cruising along, you hit the cruise control, what does it do? It just kind of pins you right there at that speed, and you're basically just maintaining that speed throughout the course of the drive. No heavy braking, we don't start and stop. It's going to find that perfect line, and it's going to stay there. So, and that is covering the entire system from the refrigerant and our indoor and outdoor fan motors. Everything is going to be modulating to that specific modulation. So, huge selling point there. Big reason why we're so excited. And another one of the big reasons that we're so excited about this product is the ability for the system to automatically adjust to the static pressure of the ducting. These guys are messing me up over here. I'm not going to say what just happened off camera. But 100% adjusting to static pressure of the ducting, which means if at some point in time, let's say the homeowner doesn't, they don't clean their filters often, which probably happens more often than not, this system can actually make up for, a clogged filter. So over the course of time, the filter continues to get clogged up. The more clogged it gets, the system actually senses what the static pressure of ducting is and can increase the fan speed accordingly. And I'm going to show that to you, a brief example once we get this unit up and running of how that actually operates. So, let's say, for instance, you have some duct work that's a little bit suspect, or maybe you have ducts that are, buried in an attic. You can't remove those ducts from the system. They might be a little bit too small. Maybe they're a little bit too large. But there's no way you're going to be able to remove that ducted system. You're going to have to adapt to it. We do have the ability to adjust to that. It's not going to fix bad ductwork, but we do at least have the option to do something like that. All right. The equipment itself, a big selling point of Fujitsu. Fujitsu is pretty much first in the industry when it comes to heating. These units out of the box are -5 degrees in heating. The 24 and 30,000 BTU are also -5 in cooling. So let's take, for instance, you have, around the holidays right here in the New York, New Jersey metro area, probably temperatures somewhere in the 30-degree range. It's cold outside, but you have a whole bunch of people at your house, the family's over, and the house starts to feel stuffy. Can your equipment, your current equipment, can you just go over to that system and turn it on in the middle of the winter? Most likely not. With our system, you can absolutely do that because we do cool down to -5 on the 24 and 30 and 14 degrees on the 36 and 48. Then we get ourselves into the XLTH system. So we do have an H model or extra low temperature heating with this equipment available on the 30, the 36, and the 48,000 BTU systems. What that does is it gets us down to the -15 degree range. Also on the cooling side, on that 30, 36, and 48, that brings us down to -5 on the cooling as well. So if you're going to go with an H-series system, you have those abilities as well. And to kind of put it into perspective, right here in the New York, New Jersey metro area, we tend to be somewhere in the 14 to 17 degree range. If you're up in John's territory, you might have a design day of what, John, like 5?
0 to 6.
0 to 6? Yeah, so 0 to 6 up there. So you could still provide cooling in those environments, but as far as the heating is concerned, we start to get into some kind of crazy numbers here. So I just want to go through those real quick. These are out of the Fujitsu Design and Technical Manual. All of these numbers come directly from Fujitsu testing. So at -5 degrees, a 30,000 BTU standard system is going to produce 22,000 roughly BTUs. When we get up to 5 degrees, that's going to get us around the 23,000 BTU range. And then for right here in Warren, New Jersey, we have a design temp of 14 degrees. That will get us up to 26,000 BTUs on a 30,000 BTU unit. So no matter what the design is, using a standard unit, we're going to get at least that 70, a little bit more than 70% capacity, well below our design days and almost full capacity on a 14-degree day. We got a question?
We got 2, Rob. So you're going through them now, but they're asking for capacity at -5 and -15.
Yep.
And then they're asking if we have any plans of making a 5-ton. They'd have to go to the J series, so you can go through those.
Yep, absolutely. So getting into the -15 first. At -15 on the XLTH unit, a 30,000 BTU system is going to give you 26,000 BTUs. So you're getting roughly 85% of the capacity out of that unit. When we get to -5 degrees on an extra low temperature heating system, we're now getting towards upwards of 29,000 BTUs from that 30,000 BTU system. When we get to 5 degrees, and these numbers really impressed us as we were starting to go through these capacity tables, at 5 degrees, we're looking at 33,000 BTUs from a 30,000 BTU system.
Outperforming its rating plate.
So yeah, we are outperforming the rating plate at 5 degrees. how often in the New York, New Jersey metro do we see temperatures at 5 degrees? You know, maybe once a year, you know, probably less than that. So we're outperforming our nameplate capacity most of the time in this footprint. That's really impressive to me. You know, I'm a heat pump nerd, so that's impressive to me. Go ahead, John.
Just touch on that J series, and then the next question is going to be for you is, do you size for heating capacity or cooling capacity?
Absolutely. So, as far as the 5-ton equipment, yeah, there's no current plans to introduce a 5-ton unit to the system. However, we already do have 5-ton units when we go over to the J series equipment, which gives us a lot more flexibility as far as the installation is concerned. So the units that we're looking at right now are 1-to-1. You have a 24,000 BTU or 30,000 to match with a 24 or 30,000 BTU outdoor unit. They're not going to communicate with any other systems. It's going to be 1-to-1. If you do decide that you want to go into a 5-ton application and go over to J series, you know, we could do, you know, upwards of 15 indoor units off of one outdoor unit. We could even mix a multi-positional air handler with a 1 or 2 or 3, depending on your capacity, other indoor units, so wall mounts, cassette units, floor mounted units, and the like. So it gives you much more flexibility as far as the installation is concerned. And then what was the other question?
Sizing for heating capacity.
Yes, sizing for heating capacity. So that's another thing. When we're doing our sizing, we're always going to want to go to the larger load, whatever that may be. That's usually going to be on the heating side. I don't really think of too many applications up here in the New York, New Jersey area, at least, where the cooling demand is going to be higher than the heating demand. So we're always going to want to size this equipment, at least in this footprint, for heating. And you may run into the homeowner that's going to say, well, you know what, I have a heating system in my home already. I don't need it for heating. But at some time when they start to realize the efficiencies of the cooling, they're going to be like, yeah, you know what, maybe let's try this heating out and see how much money it could really save us. And at that point in time, it's already, you know, game over. They're never going to go back to their old system. Johnny,
Okay,
another
Ron,
question?
Question train is rolling down the track.
All right, beautiful.
All different people too. So Ron asked, is a J series available in an XLTH? All J series models are -15. All J series models have a base pan heater like all of our H series models do. Next question is, how do these units compare in efficiency, utility bill, comparative to a 96% gas furnace?
Yeah.
The outdoor temperature driven.
Yeah, right, exactly. Efficiencies, capacities, always going to be driven by the outdoor ambient temperatures. You know, to put a number to it is relatively difficult. You know, Fujitsu used to say, and this was really, you know, I think it was before they started really going mainstream with the 90 pluses, but depending on what system you have, you could save, you know, let's say roughly 50% of your utility costs come from heating and cooling. We used to be able to say that we could save you about 50% of that. So roughly 25% of your overall utility costs would probably be about average.
I'm going to add a whisker to that, Rob, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So,
well, let me ask, hold on, before you do that, can you guys hear John? I just want to make sure that you guys can hear what John's saying, or if I have to repeat what he is saying.
Okay, Ron said he can. All right, so these are heat pumps. There's always a transition point in heat pumps. Rob is going to go through some additional options with a heat pump system with a hydronic and an electric strip heat backup. But reality is, with a heat pump in the 17 to 22 degree range outside, that's like the transition point where a 96% gas furnace will be as efficient as a heat pump will. So the goal here is to, understand what the balance is. Yes, there will be times when you're under 17 degrees where a 96% furnace would be more efficient. But if you have air conditioning on that 96% furnace, it will not surpass the overall yearly efficiency of a heat pump system. And when we're, let's say, at a day like today where it's in the low 30s, we will be substantially more efficient than a 96% gas furnace. So, it's a numbers game, and you have to understand that. And the reason we do these webinars is to try to help relay that message. This is not the most efficient piece of equipment on earth at 0 degrees, but it will heat the home. So it's a balance. What is the best appliance for that application? We're just trying to educate you as to what these can do, how they will perform, and what they will deliver for BTU. But that 17 to 22 degree range is the, call it a break-even point with a high efficient fossil fuel piece of equipment. So in our footprint, that works fine where we have a 14-degree design day here in Warren. So depending on what your design is, there's kind of the answer. So I hope that helped.
Yeah, sure. So if you're just thinking about it, I like to keep it local because most of our guys are local. I know we have, we've had people from other countries, even over in Europe, that have joined in on some of our webinars. But, keeping it local here with our local guys, 95% of the time we're going to be in the range where the heat pump is going to be more efficient than the 96 furnaces, 96%. So, and I do have other, other comparisons that we're going to make with those types of systems as well. So, those are really the advantages that we have over other heat pump systems that are in the area. I mean, there are, dozens of manufacturers out there that offer some sort of heat pump product. But as far as the heat production is concerned from ours, we're really second to none, and that's something that I would, proudly stand behind. So, being that we were just talking about the hot air furnaces, going to go over a little bit about that. So let's talk about the differences between using a heat pump system or sticking with what you had as far as a gas and oil furnace. So there's a couple of things that are going to stick out right off the bat. One, it's going to be a cleaner type of system, right? We're not producing any type of, combustion or anything along those lines where we have to eliminate gases from the home. So one of those things is, one of those advantages is there's no venting needed to the outside. On the other aspect of that, we know CO, carbon monoxide, is a danger that has to be taken into consideration when we're installing something like this in somebody's home. With a Fujitsu mini split or multi-positional air handler in this case, we don't have to worry about any kind of carbon monoxide poisoning issues. No flammable fuel sources, obviously, so we don't run the risk of, overheating or, causing a fire with the equipment, something along those lines. No venting, no CO2, that's really going to be the big differences there. And once again, we can adapt our equipment right to the existing ductwork. So we eliminate gas piping, oil piping, flues, and even powered by our outdoor units. So once again, if we had a furnace that was in a location, we can now use that circuit for something else. So with that being said, we also, we can have the discussion about, what if you have a boiler system in your home? There's a couple of things that you could do with a boiler system. Remove it, replace it or whatever, get rid of it, and install the heat pump system. Or we actually have the ability to hook up a hot water coil to our ductwork And we have relays and stuff that will allow us to communicate in Fujitsu speak to a boiler that speaks boiler speak. So we do have that option as well. In our handouts, we actually have a piece of paper, a PDF, that will describe exactly how that process would be done. And since we're talking about a backup heat source, we also have electric kits available for the multi-positional air handlers as well. So if you take a look at the cabinet behind me, right over here, we see that sticker, that flat plate. You would just remove that flat plate. The external heat kit would slide directly in and use the same screw hole locations to mount inside the unit. From there, it's just a matter of running the wire into our board. There's a plug specifically made for that, and you have to adjust one of the dip switches in there. Dip switch 101, set number 3, turn that to the on position. That lets the air handler know that there is a backup heat source. And it will also set a delay, which you can actually customize, whether you want it to run for 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 120 seconds, whatever your preference may be. That would be done through the function settings. So a couple of options there. We also have a bunch of accessories that can go with this equipment as well. So a lot of people right now are very interested in Wi-Fi. To me, it's, not that big of a deal. I'm kind of like an old school guy. I go up to the control, I set the temperature that I want, I walk away from it, and I don't think about it for weeks, months maybe. That's me. But there's a lot of people out there that want to download an app and control it from their phone, and we give you the option to do that. We have 2 separate devices that could hook up to this unit. One is the FJAC Wi-Fi 1 that uses the Intesis app, and then we have the UTY TFS XZ2 that will use the FGL Air app. So 2 different apps do relatively the same thing. The FGL Air app does have the ability to show you room temperature, or what the room temperature is currently. So you have that as well. A lot of times people are really into Nest thermostats, Ecobees, a bunch of different brands out there, smart thermostats, if you will. We have a device called the UTY TTRX-Z1, and what that device does is allows us to communicate with a 24-volt power robbing thermostat, or we like to call them power robbing. They need a power source outside of the control itself, or the thermostat itself. The TTRX will allow that thermostat to talk to the Fujitsu equipment. Just be advised, if you do something like that, you're going to lose a little bit of the modulation process. A lot of our, actually, to put it this way, you're basically turning that thermostat into an on-off switch, more or less. So you're losing the capabilities of the modulation as far as the indoor unit is concerned, because we're bypassing that thermistor. So you're going to lose a little bit of the efficiency, not a whole lot, but roughly I would say 10, 15, 20% in that range. So do keep that in mind. Another thing that's going to be very important, if you are using a third-party thermostat, you do want to have our UTY R&R UZ5 remote, which I'm going to go into detail about in a little bit. You have to have that upon the installation, because there are function settings that you're going to have to set. And as soon as you hook a TTRX-Z1 up to this system, it's no longer going to be able to communicate with our wall mount remote. And because of such, if you ever have to go back and change one of those function codes, you're going to have to replace the board as well, because it will no longer speak to the Fujitsu remote. So I do want you to keep that in mind as well. My recommendation, the R&R UZ5 is an amazing remote, especially if you are looking at extra low temperature heating H models. because built into that remote, we have a service tool. And that service tool on an H series unit will be able to give us readings right from the remote as far as what our thermistors are seeing. Does it do pressures, Johnny? Can we see pressures from that, or is it just a thermistor control? Yeah, so it'll allow us to kind of get into the system, see what's going on at the thermistors, RPMs of the fans and whatnot. So you can actually see from just from that service tool if there is some sort of thermistor error somewhere within the system. As far as the RNR UC5, this is a temperature sensing controller, so we can set this to be the sole provider of indoor room temperatures. So let's say that this unit is installed in an attic where the temperature is going to be a lot warmer than the living space. It probably will affect how that thermistor actually operates. So we would want to set it from the remote, and I'm going to show you how to do that once we break it down into uppy-closey time with our remote. You like that one, uppy-closey?
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's a super easy user interface. One of the phone calls I get, oddly enough, and this happens more often than I'd like to admit to, I'll get a phone call from either a contractor or an end user reached out to Wells Darby to ask this question: how come every time they go up to the remote, the system is off, or as far as the remote shows, unoccupied? Unoccupied means off, occupied means on. So they're wondering why this happens. So when our remote is in standby, meaning nobody has touched the buttons for a while, the screen will kind of go blank. The only thing it's going to show is the indoor temperature, which you can see right there. So you can see that there. Right now, this remote is in a standby mode. So if you come over to this remote and hit this silver button right here, that's going to turn the system off. That's why your system is off and you're when you're making that phone call. So if you do want to access the functions of the remote, just simply touch the screen, and then you get your light up display. So as you can see right now, we are in unoccupied mode, so this system is currently off. If we can, let's switch back to, yes, go ahead.
Go back to this camera.
Yes, go back to that camera, yep.
So I don't know if I missed this, but I did get a question in here.
Yep.
You said multi-position air handler.
Yep.
Run through that as to what it looks like,
Oh, yeah. So I was going to do that in the installation, but we were actually getting to that anyway. Okay. So we could go right to that right now. We were just getting to that, so good timing on that question. So yes, as John said, and as I've stated a couple times, this is a multi-positional air handling unit, which means we have the ability to be horizontal, left or right, upflow or downflow. So out of the box, this unit comes as left hand or upflow. If we wanted to go to either right hand or downflow, we would have to do a 180-degree flip of the coil. I don't have them with me, but we do have, that are shipped with the unit, there is two brackets that will mount, from what you're looking at right now, across the top and the bottom. There's only one way that those can install. All install instructions will be found in your installation manual. You're basically going to take those two brackets, screw them in. They put the holes on the outside so you can kind of see exactly where those brackets are going to go. There's no mistaking it, so it's relatively simple. And then what we're going to do is we are going to take the two thermistors. You got your room temperature thermistor and your pipe thermistor. You're going to take those off, disconnect them, not from the board, but there's little wire clips, which you can see right here, wire ties. 1, 2, 3. Cut those off and then pull the wires from their location. The unit will not flip 180 degrees with those thermistors still attached. Another thing that you want to be aware of is the location of the room temperature thermistor. If you put it back in the same location when you are doing your 180 degree flip, you will now be sensing air that's already being conditioned. Okay, so we're going to see a lot of short cycling. Unit's going to turn on, turn off quite frequently. Damp environments in the home and the like. So we want to make sure that we change the location of the room thermistor so that it's always reading on the incoming air side. All right, so that's going to be very important. As far as the hanging process is concerned, we always want to use threaded rod and U-channel or Kindorf, whatever you call it, and we want to cradle it from the long side, meaning have the U-channel run across the entire length, not front to back, because over the course of time, I've not seen it happen specifically with these units, and I've been dealing with. If you don't notice, this is actually basically a ream air handler with Fujitsu innards. So when we were talking about the hockey stick effect earlier, one of those partnerships, so to speak, was Ream reaching out to Fujitsu and say, "Hey, we need a mini split line." I'm sorry, vice versa. We need a unitary line as far as Fujitsu is concerned, because we wanted to make the multi-positional air handler. So this is basically a Ream cabinet. I've been installing, or had been installing, Ream equipment since right around, I would say, 1999-ish or so. So I've never seen it happen, but, we want to cradle it the long way just to make sure that something like that doesn't occur. So threaded rod, U-channel, make sure that, you're properly hanging the unit. And especially in attic applications, it's always recommended to have a drain pan underneath, just for emergency situations. If you can get a emergency drain to come out of that emergency pan, even better. And there also is the option with this system to install a float switch, a normally closed float switch within the pan, that will turn the system off should all of those drain options, fail for some reason. And I'll go over that when we talk about wiring, how that actually goes into the board. All right, as far as the outdoor unit, so it is our proprietary footprint unit. Basically the same thing as the rest of the Halcyon lineup, or the H series lineup, I should say, because they just rebranded everything. A couple of things that we want to adhere to, take notice of, a couple of things as far as the clearances are concerned. I always recommend to have at least 6 or so inches from the back of the unit. Fujitsu says 4. I like to go a little bit more. Our outdoor ambient temperature sensor or thermistor is located on the back of that system, and we want proper airflow to go across that so we know exactly what our ambient temperature is at the outdoor unit. From the top of the unit, a lot of the servicing is going to be done from here. So we want to have at least 2 feet of clearance off the top of the unit. So just in case the unlikely scenario that we have to replace, some sort of component, we have access to where those components are located. And then on the right-hand side of the unit, that's where our copper connections, our wiring connections, all that are located. So we want to leave ourselves, probably at least a foot of room on that side, just to allow for ease of making our connections upon installation. Piping, this is probably the #1 cause for issues on installation. Has pretty much everything to do with with how the piping is done. And we want to make sure that we adhere to these rules as well. They're not just guidelines. These are hard numbers that Fujitsu takes into consideration when they are producing this equipment. So minimum and maximum line set distances have to be within those ranges. If Fujitsu thinks that you're out of those ranges for whatever reason and they see it, they have the ability to deny warranties because of that. Fujitsu has great pride in their compressor. It is made in home, and when a compressor fails, in the unlikely scenario that a compressor fails, they're always going to jump to what did you do to my equipment? All right, that's the mentality that they kind of take away from that. So very low failure rate as far as the compressors are concerned. So if one fails, a lot of times it falls right under one of these scenarios. So on this system specifically, across the entire lineup from 24 up to 48, 16-foot minimum line set distances from indoor to outdoor. That's going to be one way, not both ways. So you can't have 12 feet to the indoor unit and then 12 feet back to the outdoor unit. That's not going to fly. We need 16 feet from indoor to outdoor. On the 24 and 30 models, we go up to 164 feet max. So, I mean, there's not many applications that I could think of where we can really go over 164 feet. And then on the 36 and 48,000 BTU models, we go all the way up to 230. And then 246 on all three of the XLTH models. So, I mean, there's a great amount of piping that can go between the indoor and outdoor unit, but we just need to make sure that we adhere to those policies. Each one of the units, 24 and 30, have a pre-charge of 66 feet. So that's going to be a key number. If we do happen to go over 66 feet and, let's say on a 3-ton, 36,000 BTU outdoor, 3-ton setup, to make it easier for me, we have that up to 230 feet, but we have that pre-charge of 98. So if we go above that 98 and we're, let's say, I don't know, let's call it 180, we have to add the precise amount of refrigerant per foot allowed for that system. All right, so it's usually somewhere in the 0.2 ounces per foot range, but we want to make sure that we take that into consideration when we're doing our piping. Flares tend to be a weak point in the process, right? A lot of times when we have leaks, they're going to be located at the flare fittings. We've done classes here at Wales Darby as far as the flare fittings are concerned. So, sometimes we have some pretty rough results from those. So we want to make sure if we're making a flare that we are using an orbital and popping tool. Orbital means that the head kind of oscillates around the outside of the copper as it pushes it down to make it nice and even, and then the popping activates when we have reached that optimal pressure, and at that point in time, our flare is complete. And I know I get laughs in the room every time I mention this one. When we make a flare and forget to put the flare nut on, I'm guilty of it myself. Even when we were doing a training room, one of the things that I did was forget to put the flare nut on. So always keep that in mind as well. Never, well, I wouldn't say never, but try not to braze with our systems. If you do absolutely have zero choice but to put a brazing joint in, make sure that you're doing a purge of nitrogen through the system while you're doing this, because that black flaking can occur on the inside. Because our EEVs are so precise, they could get in there and gum up the EEV, not allowing us to control the refrigerant flow precisely like we want to. All right. As far as the flare fittings are concerned, if it's a real big issue, or even you want to eliminate having to make flares at all, we do also represent Connex. Connex makes an HVACR press fitting. And we have a multitude of different fittings, from couplings to elbows, street Ls, 45s, Ts. But most importantly, and if Chris can just zoom in real quick over here, I can show you we have our flare to press fittings. So that is a pre-made flare with a brass nut on it already. So when you are going to attach this unit, you no longer have to worry about making your own flare. It's already pre-made. Okay, so that's a big thing as far as this equipment is concerned. And also, one of the questions that we've got when talking about Connex is, what do you do with the swedges at indoor and outdoor units on unitary equipment? Manufacturers of those pieces of equipment are currently making the option to connect press fitting to their units specifically. So that is a problem that's going to go away within the next year or so. So we have that as well. So that's Connex. If you're interested in that, you could reach us at walesdarby.com, or you can call our office and ask for myself, John, Jim, Rick, Anthony on Long Island. Any one of us could be able to help you out with that.
Rob, just before you leave the line set area.
Yes.
We had a question. We answered it, but the question was difference in vertical height between the outdoor unit and the indoor unit.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. What was that?
98.
98 feet. Yes. So that question does pop up as well. How much height differential can we get between our indoor and outdoor units? That is 98 feet of height differential. So you're talking about roughly like 4 stories of height, maybe a little bit more than 4 stories of height. So I'm sorry, no, not 4, 8 stories of height. I'm thinking 20 in my head for some reason. 20 feet per story. Maybe if you're living on the Upper East Side. But yeah, so we want to stay within that parameter as well. But Fujitsu, their compressors can handle a great amount of distance as far as the length and as far as the height differential as well. So next step, another common issue that we see on the installation side, guys are not doing the proper leak test and evacuation on the system. So when we are talking about leak test and evacuating, we want to get up to 600 PSI on our leak test, and we want that to hold for 30 minutes. Okay, so a lot of valves are adjustable. You can adjust your nitrogen valves to allow higher pressures like that. We want to get it up to 600 PSI, and the reason why we want to do that is because in the middle of the winter, very cold day, very high demand on our unit, we can see pressures in the 450 to 500 range very easily. So if you have a small pinhole leak, it may not show so much on the cooling side, but once you get to that high demand heat day, that's when you're going to start to see that issue. As a matter of fact, when we do see refrigerant issues, it's usually on the first coldest day of the year, or first cold day of the year, I should say. That's when we'll get those 10-1 error codes for discharge temperature thermistor errors. All right, so be wary of that. Make sure you're getting up to that 600 PSI test on your nitrogen. Once you've done that, you can release that nitrogen purge, and you want to put that system on evacuation. The evacuation should be, we should hold at 500 microns for roughly 30 minutes. Fujitsu says 15. I say give it 30 just to be on the safe side. So 30 minutes holding under 500 microns, and There's a common misconception about what that actually means. I'm talking about holding at 500 microns with the pump off and the valves closed. So if you notice your system while it's pumping down, the numbers are going to drop rapidly as far as your microns are concerned. Once you get under 500 microns, if you close that valve and you turn that pump off, you're going to see that number start to rise. Wherever that number sets, wherever it settles, that's what you're actually, what your microns are within the system. We want to actually hold that number under 500 microns for 30 minutes. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit of a lengthy process. So I always recommend, first things first, get that system piped in so you can do other things while you're on leak test and evacuation. And then when you're about to open up your lines, make sure that you pull your gauges off, because if you leave your gauges on when you open those valves, later on when you go to take your gauges off, you're actually going to be removing some of the refrigerant in the system. There's no reason, if we know that there is no leaks and we know that we are within the parameters as far as the piping length is concerned, that we would need to have those gauges still connected. If we do have to add refrigerant to the system, then we can keep our gauges on and add what we have to once the valves are open. All right. So getting away from copper, we want to talk about wiring. Okay. So our systems are 30 and 40 amp, depending on size. The 24 and 30,000 BTUs are going to be 30 amp. The 36 and 48 are going to be 40 amp systems. So make sure that you're installing the correct size breaker for the system and also the correct gauge wire. Okay, so on a 30 amp system, that's going to be 10 gauge. On a 40 amp system, that's going to be 8 gauge. So we want to make sure that that's the size line we're using coming out of our breaker panel. Another thing, I can't say this enough. Go ahead, John, before I get to that.
So just how you said about removing the gauges prior to opening the valves, your system is under vacuum. The question is, will you let air into the system while you're under vacuum?
I mean, you should be using anti-blowback hoses, so when you disconnect, you're not going to have any air getting back into the system. Absolutely, I get what you're saying there. So yeah. So getting back to the wiring there. 8 to 10 gauge wire, depending on the system. One thing that I can't say enough and I can't preach enough: protect this equipment. Okay. Protection of our equipment, our DC boards, because everything inside our outdoor unit is going to be DC driven. DC power can be affected by outside sources, from AC power, for instance. Our systems operate between 187 volts and 253 volts. If we go over or under that voltage, that can cause our internals to fail. Okay, I can't say it enough. Get protection on these units. You can use a surge protector on the unit to protect against surges, but a surge protector is only going to protect you against spikes. It's not going to protect you against dips. The better option that you could go with as far as protecting the system is going to be a phase monitor. On a phase monitor, you can actually set the voltage to your parameters. So for our case, 187 to 253, we could set that phase monitor to protect us between 190 and 150. Gives us a little bit of room to play, and each time we go over or under, there's a suppressor inside that's going to take that shock for the system. And then you can set, I think they come with 5 suppressors in them. The ICM, ICM 490, 493? On that specific one, there's 5 suppressors inside. So you can take multiple hits And on the last one, you can actually cause a hard lockout where you have to have a service guy come out to the job site just to replace the guts of the phase monitor, and you never have to worry about outside voltage affecting your DC-driven Fujitsu equipment. All right, so I can't stress that enough. Yes, they are going to be on the pricey side, but we got to have that conversation with our end users. Say, this equipment is sensitive and we want to make sure that it's protected because you are investing in that equipment. All right. As far as the communication wire between the indoor and outdoor unit, that's going to be a 14 gauge 3-wire with a ground. Okay. Terminals 1, 2, and 3 at the outdoor unit. Terminals 1, 2, and 3 at the indoor unit. You may have to put a switch in depending on what you're going to be doing as far as service is concerned. If you want to have a service switch installed, you can. It may actually be part of the code as well. So, a 3-pole switch, Fujitsu does make one. No splicing as far as the communication wire is concerned. We want to make sure that there's no communication issues within the system. All right. The remote wire from the control to the indoor unit is going to be a simple 2-wire. Okay. It's going to have a Y1, Y2 terminal at the remote, and also there's going to be a Y1, Y2 terminal at the indoor unit. So keep it uniform. Red on 1, white on 2, red on 1, white on 2, or vice versa. Whatever you're comfortable with. Also, I did mention earlier about the normally closed drain pan switch. That would be located on our drain pan. We would run a 2-wire from that normally closed switch, and right next to the Y1 and Y2 terminals up here on the top block, you're going to see a 1 and 2. You just put those wires in there. It doesn't matter polarity. And there also is an option if you do want to install a normally open switch, you could do that as well, but we have to fix the function settings to go over that. All of that information will be found in your installation manual. Drains are relatively simple. We want to make sure that we have a 1/8 inch per foot pitch from the unit to wherever it's draining to. A P-trap is necessary. And once again, have that drain pan switch in there just to have that extra fail safe.
All right, Robbie.
Yes.
Couple items here. So,
right.
14.3 stranded. Yes or no?
Yeah. So your 14.3 should be stranded. Stranded wire is a better conductor, so we have a better better reception as far as that's concerned.
Okay. Control wire, shielded or non-shielded?
The control wire should always be a shielded wire. We want to make sure that we don't have any, any issues as far as communication is concerned. We do have duct strip wire here. I did want to show that real quick. So, very recognizable with its yellow color. If we got up close, you would see that the remote wire, the communication wire, is separated from the power wires by the ground wire. So less of a chance of any kind of, electrical communication issues as far as that's concerned. So we have that. It comes with its own fitting to attach to the indoor and outdoor units.
No, we've had really good luck with the question is about the phase monitor, where they located and which brand. It's ICM 493.
Yep.
We normally use them in bad power areas, whether it's low or high, or if a homeowner has a generator, and we've had great luck with them so far. Normally they're mounted inside the home near the panel box, so it would interrupt your circuit going to your outdoor unit.
Yep.
And then the last one is about, talk about your trap. They asked if it needs to be 3-inch, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend a 3-inch trap because what's...
Your condensate trap?
Yeah, condensate trap. Because with the system operating...
3-inch?
Yeah.
3/4?
Oh, I'm sorry, 3/4. No, we're not going to be hooking 3-inch PVC up to our system. 3/4-inch drains. We want to make sure that we have a trap in there. And the reason why we want to have that trap there is to prevent any backflow of the condensate because of the static pressure of the system. Did I say 3-inch before? I didn't even realize it. We're not using 3-inch, guys.
You can turn it on.
All right, so now I'm going to actually go ahead and turn this system on so you can kind of see what's going on here with the system. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over to the stat. You don't have to change it right now, Chris. Not yet.
Well, we're there. We're here.
So I just hit the power button and now it's set to occupied. And you can hear, or I don't know if you can hear, maybe you can hear it. The outdoor unit has already kicked on. Notice I haven't had to change my voice in any way, shape, or form. I could whisper into the mic, and you can still hear me. So after this fan starts to modulate, right now I do have it in cooling mode. So in about 30 seconds or so, the indoor unit is going to kick on. So right now I'm sensing air at the indoor unit. Outdoor unit's starting to modulate, and we're going to have that effect start to kick on once this fan kicks on. So here we go, it's starting to kick on. I'll let you hear that for a second. I'm blowing papers around in here. Live webinars are fun sometimes. So currently, here I am still talking in the same tone of voice, and both the indoor unit and outdoor unit are operating. So as I said earlier, roughly about 54 decibels at its height for both the indoor and outdoor unit. My normal speaking voice is between roughly 57 and 60 decibels. So this is quieter than my standard indoor voice. I did want to show you the automatic static pressure adjustment. So I'm going to take a walk back over here and just you have a listen. I'm going to block off about maybe 30% of the front of this coil to increase the static pressure of the blower so you can hear how quickly the unit responds. And there it is. Take it away, and now it's ramping down. And you could do this any amount of times. There it is. And there it goes. Instantly. So if the fan sees any difference in static pressure of the system, it will automatically adjust in real time. All right, so if we can real quick go down to the control, and then that'll be the last thing we're really going to go over today. So here's our RNR UZ5. A couple of things about the installation of this unit. Before we mount it on the wall, there is a switch on the back that will enable both the thermistor and a memory into the control. We want to make sure that we put that switch into the on position. Okay, so after we have mounted the back plate, we're going to turn that switch on before we connect the remote to its back plate. So, yes?
Sorry, you just showed that duct, and I got a bunch of questions on it.
Okay.
So they want to know if that's adjustable, or was this going to take and adjust based on it?
Yeah, so that is completely not adjustable. That is going to be automatic. We don't ever have to worry about any of the settings within that. This unit automatically does that every time without us getting involved in any way, shape, or form.
And then while you're still on ductwork, before you get back to the control,
Yes.
Is there a zoning system available?
Yes, absolutely. So I was going to mention that towards the end. There is zoning available for this unit, and another product that I'm very excited about. It's called Air Zone Technology. And what the Air Zone technology does, what it is a bunch of dampers from 6-inch all the way up to 14-inch, or only the even numbers. So 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14-inch dampers that are each connected to a remote sensor, which can be either wired or wireless. And we could basically turn the entire home into multiple zones by doing so. And because the system has the ability to automatically adjust to the static pressure, there is absolutely no need to add a bypass from the supply to the return. So that is super impressive, another very impressive product that Fujitsu has come out with. And I have to shut these lights off real quick so we can see this remote better. So on the remote itself, once we put it on the wall and we've applied power, it's going to bring us through our normal setup procedures, set the date, set the time, all that fun stuff. I want to kind of go through, what we could do with this unit. So we have our mode button. Touch screen. All right, there's only one physical button, and that is the on-off switch, as we talked about earlier. We have our mode settings where we could set cool, dry, heat, fan, or custom auto. Custom auto is parameters that you can set that will allow the system to operate in both heating and cooling when it is basically told to. So it's recommended to have a nice temperature differential, roughly 8 degrees, before it switches over to the other function. So let's say, for instance, you want to set your heating for 70 degrees. You wouldn't want to switch your heating over until that remote hits, switch heating to cooling until that remote hits 78 degrees. Then we'll switch over. And the same thing for the cooling side. If you want to set to 70 degrees, you're going to set your parameters to turn the heat on at 62. This way we don't have the unit turning on and off in heat mode and cooling mode, and kind of defeat the purpose of what that does. All right. So we have that. Your temperature settings, very simple, up and down. Pretty sure we understand how to use that one already, or at least I hope so. Once you've set your temperature, you click OK. And then you also have your fan options as well. So you can set that to any one of those parameters from low, medium, high, and quiet, and also auto. So we click on OK for that. That'll bring us back to our home screen. I do want to show you there's a little symbol down here. That is telling you that you are sensing temperature from the remote. Okay, that doesn't come from the factory. We have to actually set that on the remote. I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. We're going to click on menu. We are going to go over to initial settings. Next page. RC sensor. And we're going to put it on used. From the factory, it comes in not used. We're going to put it in used. Click OK. Now we're going to see that that little icon on the front of the screen. It's going to tell us that we can now sense temperature from this unit, from this remote, I should say.
If you did, where are you sensing temperature?
If we didn't, where we're actually going to be sensing is from the indoor unit. And as I stated earlier, if you're in a really warm attic, that could affect how could affect the temperature of the incoming air to the unit. It could make the unit think that it's hotter than it actually is, so that could cause you some issues as far as comfort is concerned. Okay, so we have that. All right, go back to monitor. Now I kind of want to go over what your function settings are and how to actually access the function menu. Fujitsu made it a lot easier on this remote to actually get to those function settings. So what we're going to do, we're going to click on menu, next page, maintenance. Okay? In that maintenance menu, we have a couple of things. If you want to see what the error history or frequency of errors has been, you can click on that, and it will show you times and dates of when these errors have occurred. Okay, so we have a couple of different ones there. When I was playing around the unit, I gave it a couple codes just so I can show you what it looks like. So you have our error history there. You can also set your test run to operate from here. So if you want to put the unit in a test run after you first started it up, you can do so simply by going to test run. All right, on the next page, it gives you a couple options here. Installer password change. So if you want to lock your homeowner out, you can do so. Function settings is going to be the key from this. We're going to click on that. There's always going to be a password involved with this. 0000 is that password. 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Click OK. Now, one of the things you're going to notice right off the bat is that this system, as soon as I enter this function menu, is going to shut itself off. Okay? Because it is required to burn our function codes into memory, the unit will not operate until we actually reset the breaker. Okay? So a couple of the functions I want to talk about today. Oops, not address. We don't want to change that. Function numbers. We're going to scroll up. The ones that I want to talk about today are going to be primarily 42, 43, and 48. I'm going to start with talking about function 43. This one's going to be important if you are installing this in a very cold climate. Our units, because they are based off of J-series equipment, they do need to run for about 6 hours, well, not run, they do need to be powered up for 6 hours before running. So if we want to bypass that, we would go to function number 43, click OK. Then we're going to click on setting. That's going to allow us to change what that setting is. From the factory, as you can see right now, we're set to 00. We would set that to 01. I'm not going to actually do it, but that's what we would do. Then click OK. And it's going to ask you if that's what you want to do. You click yes. And it's now setting that function. So now what we have done is we bypass that 6 hour wait period. And just real quick to kind of explain, if you're going to do a job that's going to take 2 days, you don't have to do this function setting as long as you power up the unit on day one, and then when you come back, you don't have to do that code. So, up to you depending on what your installation is going to look like. All right. Now, next thing I want to show you, we got to go back into function. I backed out of it. Password 0000. All right, we're going to go to function again, and this time we're going to go to function 42. What function 42 is going to do for us is it's going to change our settings from reading temperature at our indoor room thermistor to both reading at the indoor room thermistor and at the remote itself. Okay, so we click on 42. Factory setting on this one is going to be 00. So as you can see, I've already set this to 01. Click OK, click yes, and now it's performing that setting. Then the last function code I want to go over is going to be 48. Click on OK. And what 48 does is basically now it bypasses that indoor room thermistor completely and solely sets temperature sensing at this remote. So we would set that setting to 01. The factory setting is actually 01, so you just want to go in here and double check that that is the correct setting. Click OK.
Factory's going to be 00, Rob. We changed that one.
Oh, they did change
42, 48, we changed both of them already.
Oh, okay. All right, so factory setting is going to be 00. My apologies. Do we want to perform this setting? Yes. Now performing that setting. So At this point in time, our remote is completely set to read temperature at the remote itself. We go back to monitor. We do have to go outside now and reset our breaker because we need to burn that into memory in order for our system to function again. Any questions on the remote?
Just let them know that they'll get the basic, the
Yes, yes, absolutely. So in your handouts, just a couple of things. We have some papers. I can actually show them to you because I got them right here. All right. This is your basic installation. Oh, there we go. That's your basic installation handout with all the function codes on the back of it. This is in your handouts for you to download.
email.
Okay. Oh, we're going to email them out. I'm sorry. So anybody who attended today is going to get these emailed out to them. All right. Then we have our electric heat kits. All right. So that's what the electric heat kits look like. On the back side of that page, we have all the different heat kits that we have available. Some have breakers, some have no breakers, and some have, what's the other thing it is? Breaker and disconnect switch, that's what it was. So depending on which one you're looking to get. And then we also have the paper describing how we would hook up our hydronic coil as a backup heat source. So download those 3 items before you X out of this program so you can have those readily available in case you need them. All right, questions?
So can you explain why there's a 6-hour wait, 6 to 12, it's actually 6 to 12 hour wait time built in? We have a crankcase heater on this unit.
Yep.
And it wants to evaporate any possible moisture. So if you're doing an install in the summertime, it's not an issue, but we just want to put that out there, function code 43. So if you're doing an install in the winter, maybe get the power to the outdoor unit as soon as you can and let it sit there while you're doing the indoor system. And if you don't hit that time frame, whether it's 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, whatever it is, which we understand you can't wait that long, that's why we gave you function code 43. It'll bypass that wait time, and the system will come up and run. And then you have to just go back in and put it to factory setting, or you will lose control of the blower fan on the indoor unit.
Right.
So just always go back and reset that back to 0.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I forgot to mention that part.
No worries. This is why we got all these guys out there, man. They keep peppering us with great questions. It's
Yep.
awesome.
Absolutely. Do we have any more great questions? I'd love to answer
I've
them.
been hammering, Mike. Probably we got over 30 questions.
Oh, awesome. Thank you guys for the questions.
Recorded?
Is this recorded? Yes, absolutely. So every webinar that we do is going to be added to our website, into our library on our website at www.walesdarby.com. You can click on the training link, and we have a list of just about every webinar that we've done. Even my earlier ones. If I was to say, I would just, try to ignore my earlier ones because they weren't so good. That's a little joke we have going on the inside.
This is not a therapy.
This is not a therapy session. Oh, I love you, Jim.
Yes, I love you too, Robbie.
I'm leaving.
It's strictly a friendship kind of love, though. All right.
Where will they be able to watch us?
So you'll be able to watch this on, right off of our website, walesdarby.com, and we also have a channel on YouTube. Usually within a day or so, Chris will have the video up on YouTube so that you can go back and watch it on YouTube. And do we have a monitoring where we can monitor questions on YouTube as well, or is that all right? So from time to time, I'll go on to videos if I see any questions. I can offer help on those questions, but there's no actual way that those questions kind of get emailed to us directly. So
We didn't get to all the questions.
We did. We're good.
We
We're
can
up to date.
email and answer to somebody.
yeah, as always, myself, John, Jim, Anthony, and Rick, we're always here to answer questions. You could reach out to either one of our offices, either New York or Long Island, and they can get you to somebody in our group. We love helping our contracts out, getting everybody familiar with the product. It's basically what we do every day outside of training is, just kind of technical support and along those lines. Our group is very, very good at what we do. If I can toot my own horn for a second, mostly because we have John Resso. And he absolutely hates when I say stuff like that. So that's why I mentioned that there.
Rob, you can also, they can also contact us via our website. There is a contact form and there is a specific button for training as well.
Oh, perfect.
Email.
So our new revamped website, we actually have a link where you can you can click on it and you can get to our specific group and ask questions over there that you may have. Kind of sort of like a ticketing system. So thanks, Brett, for letting me know about that. If we don't have any other questions, I do want to thank you for coming out and thank everybody in the background for being here today for either question support or tech support or, in Jim's case, moral support. I do want to thank you for coming out. Truly appreciate that. And last order of business before we go, we do have another webinar for next Wednesday, March 29th. That is going to be done by Rick Coster on Fujitsu resources. Okay, so definitely come check that out.
We have 2 hands-on, 5-station hands-on.
Yes.
Here, 329 and.
Absolutely. So another thing that we have going on here at Wales Darby in both the New York and New Jersey offices. Here in New Jersey, we have a couple of dates already set up where 28th and what they're
328 and May 9th.
Okay, so on March 28th and May 9th, we have in-person training here at our location in New Jersey where we have 5 stations set up. It is a, basically as advanced of a troubleshooting course as we could possibly offer. You get the 3 of us in the room at the same time. And we have these stations that we go around and, one is going to be the multi-positional air handler. We also have troubleshooting components. We also have the using the Fujitsu Mobile Technician app, as well as 2 other troubleshooting tables. So if you're interested, please feel free to sign up for those classes. Reach out to us. Let us know you'd like to attend. Those classes fill fast.
20 guys max.
20 guys max, yeah. So if you want to get in now.
They're almost halfway filled.
And we're almost halfway filled, okay? So if you want to be in the room with us and go over this stuff in person, we'd love to have you. So feel free to sign up for that. And if we don't have anything else, thank you very much for joining our webinar. Make sure you join in next week and have a great day. Thank you.